This was a 3-hour webinar that we heard from a high-ranking official in Beijing, quite extensive in their explanation of this legislation. Your take, Professor, did we get much clarity?
Thank you for having me here. I think, of course, he has to defend the official line and has to calm down all the concerns, anxiety that people in Hong Kong have about the new law. But of course, a lot of the details are not out yet, so I'm willing to give him and others some benefit of doubt. Although I have to say that, for this new national security law to be imposed from in this top-down way, that just signals that it's not going to be necessarily nice or kind to the Hong Kong society. And I would say that 5 years from now, very likely Hong Kong will be a very different place because of this new law.
And some say that this could start some domino effect, this legislation. It could be the end of rule of law. We could see changes in social media use or free flow information, and capital controls even could be introduced. Professor, are those fears overblown to you? Paint us a little bit more picture of what Hong Kong is going to look like in 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, 5 to 10 years from now, Hong Kong will no longer enjoy the same international character as we have known the city to have. And also the rule of law and the financial center from an international perspective will be very much undermined because without the rule of law, Hong Kong will no longer be the same Hong Kong as we have all known, especially for financial professionals and investors, as well as traders from other countries. So I think the buffer role that has been played by Hong Kong between China and the rest of the world will be very significantly undermined. So what I'm trying to say is, as we know, China has a very different system, politically and legally speaking, when compared to the developed countries. But for the last 4 decades, that fundamental difference in political system between China and developed world has not stopped China from developing for so many years and so fast, precisely because of the buffer role that Hong Kong has played. But I think with the new national security law being imposed and if implemented very, single-handedly, then that will really undermine and change the buffer role Hong Kong has played. So that would not be good.
Professor Chen.
Yeah, go ahead.
The U.S. also says that it no longer views Hong Kong as being autonomous. What ramifications, intended or otherwise, are there for Hong Kong and China?
I think the biggest message coming out of the latest announcement from the Trump administration is not so much about the cancellation of the special trade status for Hong Kong, because after all, U.S. Hong Kong trade in goods is very small, so it does not have any or that much direct impact on Hong Kong. But I think the overall message is very clear that Hong Kong will not be treated as being an autonomous region from the mainland. So instead, it will be treated as just another city of Hong Kong, which will be really negative and affect Hong Kong's business and the way of life going forward.
And when it comes to China, Professor Chen, it does look that it has thought out the move on Hong Kong thoughtfully, and China must have concluded that it can overcome the resistance from the rest of the world as well. Why is that? What do you make of the timing coming amid this whole pandemic chaos?
Several factors must have played a role in this calculation. First of all, for mainly mainland officials, they think Hong Kong is no longer so significant from the mainland's perspective because, as many people say, the GDP of Hong Kong is now smaller than Shenzhen's GDP. So, and hence, Hong Kong is no longer so strategically significant to the mainland. And then secondly, there's a global pandemic going on that is viewed as a window of opportunity for the mainland to take actions in Hong Kong to crack down on the demonstrations. And then thirdly, there's the September legislative election coming up. So the mainland must have thought that they should take action before that. So with all these factors, then we're seeing the extreme action that's been taken.
Professor Chen, but there's still a lot of mainland assets, a lot of mainland money that's parked here in Hong Kong. If you take a look at the role that the city plays when it comes to fundraising for many mainland Chinese companies, it takes a big chunk. We have a chart that we're showing to our viewers right now about how Hong Kong-listed mainland shares make up at least over 30% of the city's total. And it's getting more important now, especially with the U.S. turning its back on Chinese IPOs as well. So are we underestimating just how strong the financial center can be? Can it still flourish even if some freedoms are compromised?
I think from the mainland's perspective, they may think, Hong Kong has been getting a lot of financial business from the mainland and because of the mainland. So if imposing this new law will only make Hong Kong much more dependent than before on mainland financial businesses, especially initial public offerings and other securities offerings in Hong Kong. So they think this new law will not change the basic nature of Hong Kong. But personally, I think this is a lot of miscalculation because without the international character Hong Kong has enjoyed, without the rule of law and judicial independence, then Hong Kong will no longer be as attractive to international investors. So that kind of undermining of Hong Kong as a financial center, globally speaking, will affect Hong Kong's ability to provide the public listing and other capital raising opportunities for mainland companies. So that will be that role will be undermined.
Professor Chen,